conversation that we've been having the last 2 weeks. We're going to keep going. And specifically,
we've been having this conversation for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
We're coming to you from the past.
Yes.
There's a little bit of time traveling,
Yeah, a little
telepathy
bit of time
here. We're going to make some opinions based on stuff that has not happened yet. I don't think we're going to speculate too much.
We're not going to speculate, no. But
just to get to the heart of
maybe
some of this stuff.
Large groups are meeting again in the wake of coronavirus in America. I don't know.
Maybe in 4 weeks we might bring our live audience back.
Yeah, they're not here today because we've been having to use a laugh track.
Yeah, we've cut that down for the general safety of everyone. And this might be a terrible joke in 4 weeks.
It might be. We're still going to play it, though.
Yeah.
I want to say off camera a little bit, we were talking about the last episode. You wish you could have spent more time on Reagan and talking about some policy.
Wish it. Yeah. I mean, and not so much policy. It's just the like.
But let me start it off with a Ronald Reagan quote that I think will wet the whistle.
I can't be the anti-Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, well, I would like to frame you as
that.
Because then I get more cheering.
I don't know. You know, I'm not a
Barack Obama liked Ronald Reagan. Exactly. I mean, this is where you are.
There's good and bad things for every politician.
Ronald Reagan, concentrated power has always been the enemy of liberty.
I'd agree.
Concentrated power.
Absolutely. Like one-party systems, and
And it continues. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Well, that's the same speech that I was going to talk about.
We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected.
Absolutely.
Handed on for them to do the same.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Reagan.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with all those things in principle.
Yeah.
But when we were talking last week about that speech that he was having about, one day the sun's going to come up and we're going to tell our sons and daughters and our grandsons and daughters what it was like to live in a free America. And this was all going to come from us making medicine more affordable to poor people. Or more accessible, I guess I should say. And that's like where we have to draw a line from playing like these team politics or ideology or whatever. It's what do we have a market for? What are we here for? It's to be free. You know, we're in this great experiment that has been going on for, over 200 years now. And what are we doing to make sure that freedom exists at every single level? Because we ended last week talking about if you're hungry, you can't be free. If you're in debt, heavily in debt from systems that are meant to put you in debt and then profit off the interest, you can't be free.
You can't be free.
And obviously there's personal responsibility in there. If you're going to rent a center and then lobbying your government to take away that debt, then that was you doing that.
But you don't want to take away the ability to borrow.
No.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that there are systems in place where there is a watchdog to see where there's cracks in our system of capitalism, because clearly it's been
there are.
Yeah, every system has cracks. There's no perfect system. And so if this one is the best one we've got, or the best one we came up with so far, then we need to have, just like you have a road commissioner looking for cracks on the highway, you got to have some sort of third party looking at the system, looking at the people who are interacting between it. And if someone is clearly being taken advantage of or exploited due to lack of information or lack of access, whatever that is, you take that and you fight against it. There's a reason we have monopoly laws. There's a reason we have a minimum wage and stuff like that. It's because there are going to be situations where there's clear exploitation is like going to happen. Yeah. So we outlaw it.
Well, Ronald Reagan, he was an actor before he was president. Was he our first actor? Was he our first celebrity president? Well, John F. Kennedy was a celebrity in that he was, from a wealthy family.
Yeah, I mean, what does it mean? Like George Washington was a celebrity.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, but celebrity meant something different in the 1980s than it did in the
Did it?
1780s.
I mean, maybe it was a different role, but
well, I mean, you saw it. There was television.
Heroes or...
But
okay.
George Washington was never on television.
No.
He was written about by somebody, and
Yeah.
maybe you heard it.
Yeah.
Maybe you probably couldn't read it. You know what I mean? Like, I think our world has
couldn't.
changed.
Yeah.
You know, our world has changed. And so we see Reagan, and he was, you know, as an actor, he was in a fair amount of Westerns. Back in the day. And so when he was in those movies, I mean, that Western idea, like everything I know about the Wild West, I learned from a movie.
Yeah, you
not
went out
from
to the
an actual
West
history.
and you risked it all.
You risked it all. And then, you know,
gain it.
when the bad guy came into town, you could shoot him dead in the street as long as you both agreed to a duel. And then that was law. That was justice. That was fair.
Yeah.
But we live in a new America.
Yeah.
That's not justice. You call the dang police. Call the police.
Well, it was, I mean...
you know what I mean? Like...
It was mob mentality back
Yeah.
then. It was... What did they call... I mean, there's a word for that. It was like frontier
But have we
that.
developed in our capitalistic mind like we have developed in our social justice mind? Like, is there justice that we can bring over? We didn't talk about this off camera. We should have. But is there justice we can bring over that Reagan was coming in and saying, you know the quotes, but what he talked about, saying that we were going to be giving up, you know, this is how they get our freedom.
Yeah, well, it's saying
is that not the Wild West? Is that not us standing in streets? Can we not develop capitalism into a role that is policed, that we call the police, that we don't have to worry about being shot?
Well, yeah, I mean, we take advantage of those systems, and it was just like you said at the beginning of this series, is that, you know, when something happens to where the system has to come into action, we become aware of it.
Yeah.
When I say you need to pay taxes for a police force, like, that's not a private... Could you imagine if the police were a private industry? Like... you'd have...
I can't imagine that being good.
Or like a firefighter, or having to... Like, that's how it started, was you had to have firefighter insurance, and a plaque was put on your wall.
Yeah. And if you didn't have
if you didn't have one, they'd be like, we showed up, but if...
And that didn't work.
This is funny. Well, it didn't work because it became unprofitable, because people came together and were like, so if you have a plaque on your wall and the person right next to you doesn't have a plaque and their house is on fire, they still have to put that out because it could get over to your house. So they would like skip every other house. Yeah.
And then pool money.
They're like, yeah, exactly. So they're already pulling money.
They basically
yeah.
socially came together for a
so
an answer.
My only issue with that is that with the speech anyway, is that there was like a misunderstanding of like socialism, communism, and we have these buzzwords to have a team mentality to where like you're either a capitalist or you're a communist. And then you can interchange communist with socialist, but like those are two different words and they're two different systems. Like communism is like a stateless commune, you know. We know that from the 60s. That's a commune. Socialism is workers owning
property in common. You don't own anything.
Yeah,
really,
you can own your toothbrush maybe, but like mostly there's nothing, like we don't,
nothing.
No one owns the house. We all own it together. Socialism is just workers owning their factory or whatever, wherever they're working, and they get to set the prices and get to decide on this wages they get to take home or whatever like that. And then you've got like democratic socialism is brought up a lot, but I don't even know anyone who is actually that. I know like there's a few running at this point who call themselves that, but that's not true because that's still in a socialist view where workers own it. And those guys are talking about taxing the owners to pay for these social programs. Yeah. That's clearly, if you're taxing owners, then you have owners. And so you're in a capitalist system.
You're in a capitalist system. It's just...
And all these words are confusing, so it's easy just, like, if you don't pay attention to it a lot, it's like, all this is the same. But, like, there is an idea in capitalism that is social democracy. And that was what was being pushed for, where we still want to live in a capitalist society. Mm-hmm. But obviously there are people who, without a bad choice being made, are falling through the cracks. Yeah. And it's our job as a society to make sure that those people don't fall through or those cracks are filled. Because if enough people fall into it, going back to like the Second Bill of Rights, like they said, hungry men are what dictators are made out of. If we have enough people falling through these cracks, we're going to have an angry mob. And we can't have democracy or like a republic if we've got bands of angry people being led by a single person.
Yeah.
It's coming in to say the right things, promising the right things, and they come in and fight and destroy the whole system.
Yeah. But what capitalism has to offer to the conversation is a decentralization of the power. I mean, and that's for me.
What do you mean by that?
So if we consolidate, let's say we consolidate education from private institution to this is going to be free for anybody.
Yeah.
College education is free for everybody.
Yeah.
And the government will take care of that. That means they have the power over teacher hiring, they have budgets, you know, what the education is going to be, you know, they have all that kind of power. Okay, that's great. We got people educated. Now let's look at healthcare. We need healthcare to be a single payer under the government. Guys of the government, they're going to do that. They're going to have the power. They're going to help regulate medication costs. They're going to help regulate what doctors are being paid. They're going to help regulate a little bit of like what treatment you can get, when you can get it, because some stuff's frivolous and stupid, and we don't need that. And so they're going to decide, and that's fine. The ideas of that are no problem.
Yeah.
So now we have education, we have healthcare in there. Now they already have the road system, right? They own the interstates. You know, so like we centralize all this stuff in one spot, and all we need is one guy to get in there to move the mass of dumb people in our country, to make him king, to make him dictator. What I'm saying is, like, in a capitalist free market society, all that's decentralized.
Yeah, that ladder is not there. Right. Yeah.
And so you can't get it all at once.
Yeah, exactly.
You can get big chunks, okay? Like maybe you can get like, I don't know, Disney would be a big chunk right now, or, you know what I mean? Like you can get these like big chunks, but you can't get all of it at the same time. And what I think some of the fear that capitalists have, that conservatives have, is that when you centralize all that stuff, it can be, and I think that's what Reagan's talking to a little bit, is like, this is how they sneak it on you.
I get that.
I don't think it's as calculated as what Reagan made it sound.
Well, that's what I mean is anytime you're.
But it is what it is.
If you come to the conversation with that idea, I know exactly. We talked about this. You know, how many episodes ago is I know what they're coming at the conversation with this.
They came in defensive.
Yeah. Like you're coming in knowing what their agenda is. And well, like what are we more worried about? Is their agenda or that there are people sick and hurting? And obviously, you know, that's why we have such a spread out government. Like it's intentionally framed to where you can't, like we've got the judicial system, the executive, and legislative.
Then we have states doing their own things in a lot of areas.
And I mean all those I agree with you. It doesn't need to be just one party, one system to where it could be exploited. There needs to be that checks. But, like, also go back and realize, step back just from, like, us as Americans.
Yeah.
Every other developed world, or every other developed country in the world that is like a capitalist, that is a democracy or a republic or whatever, have instituted this sort of, system in their health industry.
Yeah.
How many of them have gone communist or socialist? You know, like next to none.
Yeah.
So like I think that this healthcare is not as connected to our, capitalist mindset as we're being led to believe. If that makes sense.
That does make sense. That makes sense. I just, I think for me, especially in the healthcare realm, because that's what we've been talking about, and I think Social Security is another one of these. The elderly and end of life stuff.
Right.
I think we have to have some sort of net. I'm worried about a single payer, a single entity set for that. Like I'll even say like.
But when that single entity is like when we say single entity, we're not talking about a company.
Yeah.
We're talking about a government that is already made up of multiple branches of government.
Social Security specific. I am planning for my retirement like Social Security doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing. As middle-class guy,
right,
with my kids, I'm setting up inheritance for my kids that does not regard Social Security at all.
Right.
I'm assuming it's a zero check.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a zero check.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
that's the same conversation that's been had since Social Security was invented.
It's the same one my dad had.
Yeah, exactly.
My dad had that conversation with his financial advisor in the 80s.
And that's
he's
smart.
about ready. I mean, he's almost 65. He's about... This year is when he goes on and he can retire and get Social Security
benefit. That's another thing that's great about the system is that you might be more well off than the people who just relied on Social Security.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they are starving or, living losing life expectancy because they weren't nourished enough in their old age after they were able to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We provided them a way out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, there was something.
Yeah.
There was something. Yeah. Conversation lull. These happen.
Yeah, I mean, what do you say? We've been talking about this for a while.
We've
now.
been talking about it for a
This
while.
might be a short episode.
This might be a shorter episode, but I want to hear people's perspectives on
I mean,
on these things.
Let's talk about that a little bit. It's
Yeah.
just we've obviously been talking about this for 3 weeks now. Hopefully, we've had some engagement with the subject.
Yeah.
Obviously, neither of us are well. You never worked in the insurance industry, did you?
Nope, I didn't.
Okay, so neither of us have worked in the medical or insurance industry. So, I mean, if you do and you want to interject on that, we'd be happy to hear that. Hopefully, you already have. But I think the point of the conversation is not that we're going to sit here and talk about how to fix everything.
Yeah,
but
I don't think that's.
Let's move the conversation to where our heart should be, which is why are these things even being talked about? It's because there are people being left behind.
Yeah.
And is it our responsibility to help them as like fellow Americans, as people living in a society, or is it our responsibility as people championing freedom and democracy to make sure that the system works and isn't destroyed from within?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We've got an election coming up this fall,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to go to the polls and we're going to vote for people to make decisions on our behalf because we're a republic, not a direct democracy.
Mm-hmm.
So we're a republic. So
Thank
we're going
God.
to vote. Yeah, thank goodness. So we're going to vote for people to make decisions on our behalf. And I think I would love it if people stopped making the decision on who to vote for based on their ideological views, but instead based on how do we help those people that are less fortunate?
Right.
Who's the right guy? Who's the right girl to come into office to help out the disenfranchised and that sort of thing? And I think when I have these conversations, I'm kind of always thinking, not is it going to be a conservative? Is it going to be a liberal that fixes this problem?
And we might talk about that, about how, in a later episode.
Yeah.
There weren't really a whole lot of instances before now where you were either one side or the other. Like there were people, much more independents now, but used to there was a Republican. I would have voted for a Democrat, or I was a Democrat and I would have voted for a Republican because I agreed with this part of my identity agreed that this is a more pressing issue.
Yeah.
And I'll cede some stuff that I don't agree with them, but I believe that that's the biggest issue.
This
right
is
now.
what I know, and as a conservative that votes conservative, I do, and so. But I'm going to just say it. The government in the next 20 years is not going to take our guns.
Yeah.
I should not vote based on trying to protect my guns. I don't think the government is going to start doing forced abortions.
Right.
So I don't necessarily need to vote based on forced abortion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I need to vote on, okay, we've experienced some things as a country over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're going to keep perpetuating themselves unless we put some people in place to kind of patch this up and continue our Constitution was built to be progressive and changing.
Yeah.
I mean, we have an amendment system so that we can change it.
Yeah.
Like that's, what I mean? So as we're changing and as we're moving forward, let's figure out what's going on socially. Who is the best person in there that can help me move forward?
Yeah. And I mean, and our real duty in that is to listen to everyone who is, trying to take that position to speak for you.
Yep.
Not just if you're in a camp and your camp is saying this, don't just say, okay, that's got to be right.
That's got to be right. Yeah, don't fall in line with that. And
Yeah.
so I guess we want to encourage you to jump in this conversation. Let us know what we can be talking about, but also be thinking, how does this impact your decisions you're making every day? How does this impact your volunteer hours? How does this impact your voting? How does this impact where you give money? Those types of things. How does this impact you to where you're not just dragging a party line, but you're actually thinking about the issue, you're being educated on the issue, and moving forward.
Yeah.
And so please comment on YouTube. Keep listening to our podcast everywhere podcasts are broadcast, iTunes. It's not even iTunes anymore. They changed the name.
Yeah, it's just podcast. I think that's what my app says.
iTunes took a brand called Apple took a brand called iTunes, and they've just dismissed it. It's Apple Music now.
That's pretty good.
And Apple Podcasts. That's incredible. Anyway, totally different podcast for that one. But yeah, you can listen to us Apple Podcasts, obviously, Google Play, Spotify. You can get us there. But jump in the conversation with us.
Yeah, Luke will probably share it on Facebook.
Curtis won't.
I'll try to. I never get on it.
You deactivated your Facebook account.
Yeah.
And you've reactivated it because of my peer pressure.
Just because of that, yeah.
I love it. You're welcome,
I'm
Mark.
trying. I'm going back and forth.
What's his name? Mark?
Old Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg. You're welcome, Mark Zuckerberg. I brought him back.
Yep.
So, but yeah, hit us up on social media, direct message us, those sorts of things. Join in the conversation, and we'll be back next week.
Next week. See ya.
Yeah.